Hello, my name is Harry Anderson, and today I will be presenting on this statue in the British Museum known as Hoa Hokananai'a, and I will be talking about the origins of it, how it was found, cultural significance, and why it's still significant today and remains to be a prominent part of the museum's collection. So, as we can see on the left hand side of the slide here, that is the statue itself. And I'm sure many of you watching this would recognize this statue, maybe, or something like it, as it's one of the classic Easter Island heads, is what you might know it as. And these are often portrayed in different British and American media outlets, and many movies reference them. So I wouldn't be surprised if you might recognize this, but a lot about them and their origins isn't necessarily as known. So we're going to go more into that today. So, where did Hoa Hokananai'a come from? So, Hoa Hokananai'a, as mentioned, is one of the Easter Island heads. So, it comes from Easter Island, also known as Rapa Nui, and it was built by the people of Rapa Nui out of volcanic rock, is what is believed. It was a stone carving, and it's thought to be some sort of religious statue, and it was built between 1000 to 1600 AC. So it's a big range because they're not exactly the easiest things to date, and they haven't really known an exact date that these were constructed from, but they know that was the range that the Rapa Nui were building these heads from. So it has to be somewhere in here. But as you can see, Easter Island's very, very far out. It's right down there near South America, but it's pretty much in the middle of the ocean. It's not really close to South America or the United States. We see as well up there in Mexico, but we don't really see it being too close to land. So there wasn't a lot of contact for the people of Rapa Nui, which might have led to them developing such interesting ideas that were so different from anything we've seen anywhere else in the world, which is part of what makes this so interesting. So, moving on, how did we find this since it was so far away? So, this statue was found by British sailors, a crew of British sailors who were sailing around and eventually stumbled upon the island. And while exploring, they found the massive, imposing stone statue, which stands at about 2.5 meters tall. So, it's about 7 feet 9 inches, give or take, which is quite big, obviously, and it's made out of volcanic rock. So you can imagine it'd be quite heavy to lift. But these men found it, and it was partially buried in what was thought to be a ceremonial stone house of the Rapa Nui people. So this is quite interesting. We don't know if this was maybe being used for a ritual or anything like that. And it was also seen facing towards a now inactive volcanic crater, which we don't know if this was intentional, if it got moved, but it would be quite interesting if it was facing that way on purpose as part of their ritual. But the British sailors came in and they loaded Hoa Hokananai'a up on this ship somehow. I don't know how they did it. It looks like a lot of ropes, a lot of manpower is what they used. So you can see the photograph on the left is them with the ropes and the statue all wrapped up on the ship, which is quite cool to see how they did that because it's definitely a heavy statue. It's big. It would be hard, especially with the technology at the time. They didn't have power tools, things like that. So it's quite impressive that these men got this on this boat. And on the picture on the right, we see some of the different symbols on the back once they got it on the ship, which we will go into with the significance. What is the significance of Hoa Hokananai'a? So Hoa Hokananai'a has all these carvings on the back, and the statue on the right is not Hoa Hokananai'a, so don't be confused. The one on the left is, however, but the one on the right is just to show some similarities. But The main significance of it is thought to be religious, and the people of Rapa Nui are thought to have this thing called the Birdman religion or Birdman cult, depending on who you ask. And this idea was formed around worshiping the seabirds that they saw, because obviously we saw earlier that they were way out in the ocean, not a lot of contact. So one of the main things they would see is these seabirds. And so, in a lot of these depictions, which we can see on both of the backs of these statues, we see these bird like figures with human heads, and this became known as Birdman to us today. And they had interesting traditions surrounding the Birdman. Every year, the men would compete to find this egg, and whoever got the egg would be told to shave his head as kind of tribute to the Birdman. So it's quite interesting what they did. But these seabirds led to them developing their own unique religion, which I think is very interesting. And we see this in a lot of these carvings on the back. You can see birdmen depicted often facing each other on both of these. So this was clearly a large part of their culture, and we would like to think, or many people think, that these statues were made as some sort of religious tribute to the birdmen and the different seabirds, as we see these carvings on most of the statues, and there were several of them made. Um, so now going into the modern implications, why does this statue matter today? Why is it relevant? So Hoa Hokananai'a is in the British Museum. You'll When you walk into the gallery that it's in, it is probably the first thing you notice. It's in the center of the room. It's obviously big and imposing, and it often has a crowd around it, people taking pictures, things like that. So people are interested in this. And as I mentioned earlier, a lot of movies and media mention these Easter Island heads, which is probably part of the reason that they're so popular with visitors of the museum and people across the world. Along with this, this is one of the best looking examples we have of these moai heads from Easter Island. So, as we can see, it's in excellent condition. It's considered a masterpiece by the Rapa Nui people because it's carved very well. It's very smooth. We can see that they are quite good with stone. They had to be, because their island was very volcanic based. It was a volcanic island. It had, as I mentioned, it was this statue was found facing a now dead volcanic crater. So they probably had access to lots of stone, but they probably had limited access to things like wood, as it was such a small island. So they had to get good with this stone and use that. So that's probably why they were excellent stonemasons and they could carve like this, which is quite interesting to see how that still stands today, and we can still see the how skilled they were. Along with this statue is still something that remains very mysterious to us. So as I said, there's a range of dates that we think it's from, and we know about some of the carvings in the Birdman cult, but still not too much is known about Easter Island and the Rapa Nui people and everything. So it's definitely a bit of a mystery factor here that is enjoyable to people. People like to see this. Maybe they notice something. Maybe they'll find out something that people didn't know before about the Rapa Nui. And these statues have been always, kind of depicted as, in the media that I mentioned, as mysterious and kind of spooky. Lots of people think this statue is quite creepy because of its face. Its eyes are kind of very dark because of the shadows and the carvings that they use. But overall, this statue is just really interesting to see. It's a good demonstration of the Rapa Nui people's handiwork, and it's a very interesting historical kind of mystery, which is fun to see. So we're still finding out more. There's still research being done on these statues on Easter Island. So we'll hope to see some new research soon. But that is the Hoa Hokananai'a statue. one of my favorite pieces in the British Museum. And it's something that I hope you learn more about with this video, and something that you can come to appreciate as I did, and appreciate the handiwork of it and appreciate the kind of interesting, mysterious history surrounding it. Thank you.